Hey guys, Pookie from Pookie's Painting Palace here. Today we're doing a tutorial on these two Scout Pillbox towers from Warsenal Terrain. They're made of MDF, and that's really all you need to know about them. We've gone ahead and primed them and assembled them. However, I know some people prefer to paint things unassembled first when they're in MDF sheets, which is totally fine. However, for the Comanche line specifically from Warsenal, I think it's easier to assemble them and tape over them and then paint. Since most of the line is square, I find that that's best. However, I have done plenty of their other stuff and not taped it off, and it was, just as easy the other way around. So the paint that we used for this particular project was all from Reaper. However, that's totally fine if you want to use something else. I use Vallejo and Scale 75 for other projects. So to start things off, we take a muddy olive from Reaper here. We put it in our airbrush. Well, I'm using a Badger Patriot 105 as my airbrush. We've got everything taped off. It's ready to go. We put some of that muddy olive in there and stirred around with a little bit of a water isopropyl alcohol mix that I have. Put it in the airbrush, spray it all over the place, and get this primary color, this base color, down. That way we can get a good layer to start off with. Now I'll say this, that the first time that you apply the base color, the darkest color here, for this instance it's the olive green, the muddy olive, some of it will get soaked up into the MDF despite having primed it. I think this might be an issue with the cheap can of primer that I use. I haven't tried anything else, but sometimes you got to go through with an extra run through on your initial color. After that, it's fine. The rest of it sits on that first primary layer and doesn't get soaked up by the MDF. Now we take this muddy olive and we apply it all over the terrain piece, and we do it for both of them. You can be a little reckless with this initial color, because nothing else is getting hit by it. It's only going on the primer, and you should have everything taped off. So no worries about getting anything messed up. Just go to town on it and get it done fast. Most of the time that I was waiting on anything to get done, it was because it was drying. There was not a lot of going back and forth. I would argue that 20 to 25 minutes of this build was just waiting on things to dry. The total length of the project took me about an hour and a half, and that was between me talking to guys on Discord while painting and also waiting on things to dry. Probably paint time was 45 minutes. So we start then next with just an olive green, and we do this technique that I call striping. I don't know if it's called something else. If it is, let me know, it'd be great. But essentially what you do is you start with the darkest color, the muddy olive green in our instance here, and then you take a step in, and then you do that middle color, just a regular olive green. That way it kind of provides this glare effect that may or may not actually be there. Whether or not this model is actually getting hit by light, you're going to have this look like it's got light sheening off the top of it. It may not look pretty with just the two colors on it, but go ahead and just keep trudging along and get that final highlight that you want to get on there to really make it pop. Like right now, it just looks like a two-toned building. But when we get that pale olive coming soon, it'll really show that shine. That'll sell that glare effect that we're wanting. Like I said, I call it striping. I don't know if it's called anything else, but the reason I call it striping is because it's essentially just striping all over the model. But you do that step in, step in, step in. Go wide with the dark color, step in with the middle color, step in again with a lighter color, and we'll see that here just shortly. Now some of you might be noticing that we do not have any of the floors or the ladders or anything like that. Any pieces that we have that are going to be removable and a separate color, I've gone ahead and just taken them out. That way we can do them later and just kind of get it all done separately and not have to worry about using tape on absolutely every part of the model. Masking the entire floor of the piece was a lot harder than just removing it and painting it separately. So we've already gone ahead and done that. You'll see the videos going to show you later how we do the silver, and we're going to do kind of a similar glare as we're doing here, but it's going to be at a different angle. Okay, so now we go ahead and start that pale olive, and you'll see that I'm doing it in just thin stripes here, and the light's even catching it already. You're getting that glare even more now than you did before. That glare effect is really what is going to sell, making this look good. And you just, like I said, do that wide step, even smaller step in, and you get a thinner line each time you go through. The key to airbrushing that I've noticed is you got to keep moving constantly. So constantly have that flow going, that way it doesn't look like splat, splat, splat here and there. You got to get that smooth, constant flow, that way everything looks natural and blends. And you're just going to do that striping all over the model. Like I mentioned prior, it's just going to sell that glare no matter where it is on the board, whether or not actually light is hitting it or not. It's going to make it look good anywhere. And that's just it. For me, the pieces just stand out even more when you do this. Some people paint things differently, and that's totally fine. If you've done any of these projects of your own, and you've done some Warsenal terrain or Infinity terrain, or even not, let me know. I'd love to see it. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get ready to start the silver soon here by removing the tape. Now the brackets that hold the roof there up are silver. Those are the only pieces that we couldn't actually remove, but that's fine. With just a little bit of airbrush control, you should be able to get those to turn silver without having to do too much or no cleanup at all. As you might see there, I have gloves on. These are just latex gloves that I like to wear when I'm airbrushing. That way I don't get paint absolutely all over myself, but I have free control of my hands as well. One thing that I definitely recommend that you do, just for your own health, is to always wear a mask whenever you're airbrushing, because down the road that can cause some issues for your health. It's just better to take care of it now while you're getting in the thick of it. Just wear a mask. It's a lot easier for you later. Okay, so these are all the silver parts that we took off earlier, or didn't apply, I should say. I'm just going to lay them all out here. It's the floorboards and the ladders that came with the set. What we start with here is we're going to start with that stormy gray that I had prior in the pictures earlier. Everything was primed just to black, and so it's easier just to transition from black straight into a darker gray. And we're going to get the whole thing covered in that gray. Now, something to notice here is vented pieces. For the initial spray through, it's not going to matter, but whenever you're starting to apply other layers of highlights and stuff, be extremely careful of terrain pieces behind it. There's been a handful of times that I have taken like a ladder or a graded looking floorboard like this, and I was doing a streak of highlights on it, and then the next thing you know, the piece I had done behind it was getting hit by overspray through those cracks and ruined the whole. I had to start completely over on the other part I might have just done. So just be careful of that. Whenever you've got something that's got grates or slits in it, just kind of set it over to the side when you're painting it, and just be mindful of the things behind it. Like I said, for the first primary spray here, you don't have to worry about it too much because everything's going to start the same color. A lot of these MDF pieces are really light, and if you can't grab them because you're afraid of covering up paint space, a lot of times I use tweezers to grab them. That way I can get a secure grip on them, but still apply the paint almost everywhere. You'll find that a lot with ladders and little fountain pieces, all sorts of just lighter weight MDF that isn't a giant chunk that's going to be going somewhere that you could also just grip with your hand. So next we're going to do a Tempest Gray on it, which is just a lighter gray, and we're going to take everything at an angle here, and you'll see here shortly what I'm talking about. And know that I've got it leaned up and not having anything behind it. but you can already see where that glare is, just like before with the striping. We're just doing it at a different angle. This is similar to like a non-metallic metal trick. It's just on a much broader surface than you might normally see, and also it's not as quite as many layers as you might see some of these really high-grade non-metallic metal pieces get done at. But we're going to do this on all of the components here. Just get that second stripe through, and then we're going to end everything with a pure white. And you'll see just how much that sells that glare, like I mentioned before, that sheen. It just sells it so well. You'll see how that sells it here in just a few seconds. One thing I would really recommend everyone doing if they can is to get a nice overhead light for whenever you're painting. And that's not just terrain, that's any piece that you're working on. I used to work with just room lighting, and then I was just bought one of these lamps because someone at a convention told me about it. And it was like, it's really gonna help you see your mistakes and up your game. And so I went ahead and bought one. And where I used to live, it was like, yeah, this is a help. This is really good. This is, I like this. Then I moved to my new apartment, my current one, and the room lighting is horrible. So I couldn't even use it if I wanted to. I'm so glad that I ended up buying this thing when I did. Now, what we're doing here is we're applying that Tempest Grade just everywhere, even the ladders, and you can get that angle effect on the ladders. It looks good on anything that you want to do it with. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to start doing the white. And just instantly you can see, like, wow, where like the light wasn't even hitting it that hard from the lamp above, but now it just looks like ka-chow. It's like it is Lightning McQueen all over the place right there. And it just looks so good. It sells so well. And you can get that same effect, like I said, on all the ladders and everything. It's just that wide step, middle step, smaller step, and you're going to get, you just inch in closely, get a smaller zone each time. Now we're going to place these in the scout towers and see how they fit. Everything seems to be looking good. It's all these different lighting effects going off. The piece isn't even done and it already looks good. Just want to make sure that we have sometimes a few little bits of glue gunked up in places. I use Gorilla Glue. You can just kind of, if you need to get a knife or something, you just kind of scrape it out. A lot of times you'll notice that you'll put glue in somewhere and then a piece won't fit now. And that's just, nobody wins in that situation. So just be careful when you're using your glue, but don't be afraid to go in and scrape some off either. Now I will say on this particular set, the ladders, they are designed to go to another building underneath them. However, I just wanted the scout towers. I'm using them to look kind of like a guard post on my Akazaba table. They are designed to go underneath another building. So the ladders are long if you buy them just with this set. And so I had to do a little bit of fidgeting with them all too, because I was forcing them to look a way that the kit isn't necessarily designed to look. So I used a lot of glue and a lot of pressure. I think at one point I rubber banded them around as well. I don't quite recall, but basically if you need to like rest something on it to push down, or find a heavier object to kind of lean up against it, and you can get the similar effect that a rubber band would. Now we're gonna do these. I don't know exactly what they are. I'm assuming they're like manhole lids. I don't know. Like I honestly don't know what they are, or like a turret holes or something. I just thought, you know what? Maybe they're like a lid of some kind. So I just painted them that same stormy gray, tempest gray, and then white like I did the other parts. And I'm also doing the brackets here, like I mentioned earlier, that were the metal parts holding the roof up. If you guys know what that is. If you've built this before, or you have maybe a piece. I don't. That's something I noticed that happens a lot. Is there'll be a piece that goes with the kit that you don't know about, and if you don't read like I do, I don't read anything. Probably should. But if you don't read the description, a lot of times, Warsenal will put in there like, hey, this goes with this. Well, I didn't pay attention to any of that. Even when I bought these, I didn't even realize that you could even buy a whole other box with them if you wanted to. I just thought they looked like great little, guard shack things, and jumped on it. Then turns out, if I want to later, I can buy a whole other building that goes underneath them. And this part you got to be kind of gentle with, because you don't want to overspray onto the green you've already done. Now, if you're really concerned about that, you could tape just the rim of the green. That way you're not spraying over into it. That's something that you could do. And I just use regular painter's tape as well, by the way, just from like Home Depot or Lowe's or something. Oh, that's what I used. I used tape. I was trying to remember. I was like, I don't remember buying rubber bands. I used tape, just kind of wrapped it around there to keep the ladders in place, because they were being a little fidgety and they weren't, wanting to rest there because they weren't meant to. But I just plumped on a bunch of glue and then taped them down. Now we're gonna go through with another pass through here with the Tempest Gray onto those brackets and those turret holes. Again, like I said, if you know what they are, let me know, because I have no clue. Now what you're seeing here is I have a old airbrush needle that was chipped and bent that I love to use to clean pots with, paint pots, or scrape glue off things. It's really a fine tooth like pick basically. If you don't have one, you could probably find just like a sewing needle. I would recommend one of those for paint pot clog fixers, as well as like scraping off things without having to get a full-blown X-Acto knife. Okay, we're getting ready to do this last pass through here with the white, just to kind of get that glare effect on all the remaining parts as well. And again, I just want to remind everybody that this video was made just to show you how easy it is to make good looking terrain, but I also want to just point out you can take this a step further. You can go back through and you can do panel lining, you can do edge highlights, you can do all sorts of stuff, but the objective here was to really encourage people to get terrain for their games, whether it be Infinity, Warcaster, Warhammer 40k, Star Wars Legion. That's actually what this whole Alcazaba table I plan on using for all of those games. It was designed for Infinity, and that would probably be what it's primarily used for, but also Warcaster's coming out, or it might already be out by the time you see this, and it uses a lot of similar terrain, and it's sci-fi based. And then also that entire table I have can be used for like 2, maybe even 3 Star Wars Legion and 40k tables, Warhammer 40,000. So I just really want to encourage people to get out there and start painting terrain, and it doesn't take as much time or effort as you really think it does. I got, like I said, these 2 pieces done. The actual like paint time, if I would have just like focused down, 45 minutes, maybe. And still, even then, I'm sure some of that's dry time. So I really encourage people to get out there and start looking at terrain. And even if it's not sci-fi, maybe you want to use something else. So there you have it. That's all there is to it. That's the piece there. I think it looks pretty good. We'll have some zoomed in photos of it here at the end of the video as well for you guys to check out. I also have these on my Instagram and on my Facebook page. Check those out as well. You can find them somewhere in my channel info. I'd be more than happy to have you guys follow me along. Check out my Twitch as well. We get stuff done live all the time. Okay guys, thanks for watching. I look forward to doing more of these. Give me some comments and feedback, like and subscribe, and I'll see y'all soon.